Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Memorial Championship presented by Discraft. Insane lead card for you guys coming at you from Vista del Camino's XL layout. Aaron Gossage, the Goose, sits at 25 under. Just behind him after the hot round that we saw in round number 2, AB Anthony Barela, 24 under. Last year's champion, Gannon Buhr, sits at 21. And world champ, two-time major winner from last year, Isaac Robinson, sitting at 20 under. It's round 3, and guys, we got him back. The Goose, he's in the booth. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again. Love doing the commentary. So yeah, anytime you want to have me on here, I'm happy to do it.
Well, things seem to be working out pretty well for you so far as well. So let's see if we can keep that train rolling. Totally different course. You go from what feels like almost birdie or die and the kind of the lush green grass and the fountain and the water to a very different look out here at Vista, don't we?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of bonus birdies out here. A lot of really tough par 3s. Some few more par 4s as well. So just in general, I played this course way more often, and it's going to be a lot lower scoring usually. So it's going to be a lot more, a lot more excitement, it seems like, rather than that like birdie or die aspect.
And speaking of excitement, everybody thought you had a great shot. You actually go deep on hole number 1, and you go to the OB that's behind the basket, whereas AB comes up just short.
Yeah, hole 1's a little bit tricky. For the most part, I just tend to throw that same shot, keep it nice and smooth and straight, but it was a little high that time, and we had some funky wind, so stayed a little high, got a little bit long, and slid just about 2 inches out of bounds.
Well, there's a little tree love. There's not a lot of trees in Arizona. When you get a kick like that, you're going to take it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's right at Circle's Edge there, so I think I'm about 28 feet here. A little bit of tailwind, and yeah, just a little low on the first putt of the day.
Not the most favorable roll away either, just to add a little context to it. But here's AB. I feel like if I went back and looked at every time I filmed AB, he's within 5 feet of this spot. It's like his spot. The question is, does it pay off today?
Yeah, he throws a really solid shot that just kind of flips up on the right side, catches a little bit of hillside, and then slides down into the circle. So, yeah, you'll hear someone in the background right there just shouting 18 in a row, picking up where he left off from yesterday.
That makes perfect sense. I was going to say, it sounds like they're getting greedy if they want 18 in a row today, but you're right. That's 18 consecutive birdies for him. Kind of a funny streak to think about, as Buhr has no problem cleaning up for birdie.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a little nervy getting started here for me. I was feeling it a little bit, and definitely nice to have a reasonable length putt there to just like get me going, settle me down a little bit.
Does it come into mind thinking about how AB is so beloved and such a, he's the hometown kid. Fair or not, everybody's rooting for him. Even though you guys are friends and teammates, they're rooting for the hometown kid.
Definitely. You definitely have to think about that a little bit. There's so many people there cheering him on that definitely is something to think about. But more than anything, the thing that I'm most intimidated about AB is that he's played this course more than probably anyone I know. So definitely has that like home field advantage.
And we're looking at hole number 2, 415 feet. I've seen both successful backhands and forehands here. How do you break down when you're attacking this one?
So it's interesting. They added a new tree here on the right that you can barely see, and it changes the forehand at least mentally a little bit. So you have to, instead of throwing a nice swinging wide Anheuser, you have to throw it a little bit more inside or flip up. But I still prefer the forehand play just because it is a little bit more open versus, I know I've seen these low backhands. Gannon's going for this like low hyzer gap versus AB is going straight at it. And then I know Drew goes like big wide hyzer around the side. I haven't had great success with any of those shots, so I just stick with the forehand myself.
Not a surprise to see Robinson going backhand here.
Yeah, see if he can get the good tree kick that Gannon got. It does not. And so I like to tee off on the left side of the pad here just to give myself a little bit more room with the forehand. And I can push that right side with the flex and it flexes back just a little bit. That's about how I'm drawing it up right there.
Yeah, and to get past that, it feels like you always have a ceiling to contend with. And here we see an open path to the basket, but not really the ceiling that's going to allow you to run at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Very low ceiling, anything that's short, or even just like a little bit left of the basket. Yeah, you can see AB's on a knee here from just outside the circle. So definitely would rather be long or right putting back at the basket.
Yeah, when I say open, it's like you can see it, you can easily get there, but you can't necessarily get it into the basket. And I think that's one of the big challenges in this longer pin position. This pin position is kind of newer just in the last year or two, and it's really added that much more to the hole.
Yeah, I think it's a good addition. I think it makes me at least disc up to a distance driver versus I think I'm throwing a fairway to the shorter pin. Makes the shot just challenging enough and adds a little bit of difficulty.
And Buhr has some memories. This is where he ultimately ended the playoff last year. And that is just off the front of the cage. And you're wide open. I mean, everything we just talked about, like, such an advantage to be over here.
Yeah, definitely. I threw a pretty solid shot there. I thought it was a little long, but we did have some headwind, so I think it kind of stalled back right at the end of it. So I guess even through 2 is pretty decent after going OB on hole 1. So I'll take it.
Yeah, maybe more importantly, assuming these guys all par, you're getting a stroke on the rest of the card. So even though you may have given one to them on hole 1, here you are, the lone birdie of the card on hole number 2. And then speak to that real quickly. It kind of feels like you guys are like out in front. There's kind of a separation. There's 4 of you on the lead card, and then you guys have some cushion even before you get to 5th.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those tournaments. 4 rounds really makes a lot of separation. And then on top of that, it was very windy today. So everyone was a little bit more condensed, it seemed like, because of that. And yeah, so it's kind of like a 4-person race at this point. Obviously, someone could pop off a really solid round and get back in it. But today I was just focusing on the guys on the card, more or less, and just trying to keep even with them was the game plan.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I don't mention that you can tee off to the sides here. Break down kind of your philosophy on that, and do you like that you guys are able to do so with regard to the tees in this case?
This is an interesting course because the tee pads are a little funky. They painted them or tried to put some surface on it that was very slick a while back, and so a lot of players like teeing off from the sides. Anymore, I think the tee pads are pretty solid. I just try to change between on the tee pad or off depending on the angle that I'm looking for. So for instance on this one, I like that straight forehand, so from the right side I can throw it a little straighter at the gap, let it hyzer in, versus on the previous hole I like teeing off on the tee pad since it gives me a little bit farther away from that first tree like I was saying.
Yeah, and it's tough to see, but it is worth pointing out there are some indicators on the right and the left sides of the tees, even though they're blending in a little bit more than normal here. You can't just go anywhere you want off to the right side, but most holes you do have the option on this course.
Yeah, and that's pretty standard stuff for Vista. Any tournament you're playing out here has the same kind of rules, more or less. So we're all used to playing these. We know where we're allowed to tee off on all the tee pads. It's a really solid shot from Isaac there. Stalls it out, doesn't get much skip, and stays right next to the basket. And you can hear the wind. It was ripping at this point, and AB's got a really solid spin putt into it, but just lifts a touch over the basket. He's going to have a little bit of a tough comebacker, too.
Gannon just a step or 2 inside the circle, and he's short on his effort.
Yeah, not the most confident stroke I've seen from Gannon. He likes to do that a lot where he does the quick arm movement at the end, and usually it works out for him. I'm always surprised, but this time, yeah, not so much. I think it's just a little bit of tailwind kept it down.
And some people say, well, it's just wide open. There's nothing to throw around. And here we are seeing AB yet again contending with one of the few trees that are on the course. And we just saw quite a few people on hole 2 also have to deal with it. Oh, that is a heartbreaker.
Yeah, that's a tough 3-putt there. Like you said, just a little bit of obstruction mixed in with some windy conditions. and makes this course very challenging.
And now you're looking for a two-stroke swing. Of course, you guys come into this hole all knotted up.
Yeah, definitely happy with that. Putt's feeling pretty smooth. I'm just trying to like get my release point and put it right in the center of the basket. Some of these like crosswind putts get a little funky, can easily like slip away from you, but keeping it nice and close off the tee makes a big difference.
And just like that, a two-stroke swing between you and Anthony, just as we saw in his favor on hole number 1. As we'll head over to hole number 4. What's tricky about this one, if anything?
So all of these holes have their own little like tricky bit to it. I think most players on this one take the big wide hyzer. Basically, it's kind of a stall shot. You're trying to throw kind of flat over stable off to the right of that tree you can see. The disc kind of runs out of speed and it's going to fall to the left on top of the basket. Today we did have a pretty stiff headwind, so I was wondering if I even had enough disc. I'm throwing a Crystal Raptor here, and so I was like, hey, just hit it a little harder than you usually do, which is probably not the right mentality. I should be sticking smooth here.
Would you think of going to like a Nuke OS or something else that's going to be a little sharper and be easier to get there, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. It flies a little truer as well. When there is a lot of wind like that, going a little bit faster, more over stable, you get a very consistent flight, versus sometimes throwing harder on a fairway, you don't get the same results. But I got a little fortunate through the tree, ended up about circle's edge left. That's a great shot from Isaac there too. Pretty much how you're drawing it up. This hole's a little easier than it has been in the past. The OB in the back is on the wall, so if you do get to the basket, you can't really skip out. You'll just kind of slide into the wall. And then the other one you have to contend with is there's a tree just past this guardian tree you see that we're all going around. And it used to be OB to be in it, and now the OB is past it. So if you do come up long, a lot of times you'll catch that tree that AB's just skipped in front of. And right now it's safe, so it does make the hole quite a bit easier. So like for instance, that spot right there has been OB in years past, but not this time.
I was thinking off the tee, that's exactly where he's heading. That was gonna be OB, and I was surprised to see it. But AB, great bounce back. You know, kind of get rattled on hole number 3 with the bogey and the 3-putt, as you said, and then follows that back up with a birdie.
Yeah, and he's just right back on track. He hit maybe 6 steppers in his round yesterday. So from that like 35, 45 range, somewhere in there, he's really deadly. And yeah, getting right back in the swing of things there. My putt's still feeling a little weird. Definitely they have that like cross headwind and struggling getting that that nose high enough because there is a lot of drop coming from that.
Robinson about the same distance.
And a very similar result. You can it's hard to see in the video, I should say, but just right at the end, you can see the disc drops a good 4 or 5 inches, something like that, and something you got to factor in when you've got the swirly, gusty wind.
And something else I would tell everyone to think about is look at the 4 guys on this card. Your putting styles couldn't be any more different for all 4 of you. Gannon from the low hip, Isaac kind of that high release, you low to high, AB is kind of a mix of all. Like it's very unique to see as we head to hole number 5. And are you stepping onto this tee thinking, you know, either I'm committed to going for it or I'm committed to laying up? Is that kind of the philosophy here?
Definitely. I think that's really the way to play. Some players will play like a straight shot that kind of lands in between the trees but kind of short. I don't really like that play myself. I'm definitely in the either go for it or lay up. And when we were stepping up to it, it calmed down just a little bit. And I was like, you know what, this is a really good time to give this a run. And, you know, watching here, I was like, let's see if AB goes for it.
And isn't that a putter?
Yeah, he's throwing a Kratos there, I think. Stable putter and super smooth the whole way. Just trickles inside the circle, and I was like, well, I guess if he can do it, I better go for it myself.
All right. Playing to the card a little bit. AB going putter on the 386-footer. Comes up about 25, 30 short.
And I love the release out of my hand. It was exact angle, speed, release that I was looking for. And I think I just didn't factor in some of the funky wind out there.
Yeah, it looked like it flipped up and just really never had a chance to come back and fight back for you. And Robinson is going to go pretty much right up the middle, but doesn't push all the way to the Mando trees.
And he's taking his time even on just laying this up. It's a lot of wind, and you're not quite sure what's going to happen a lot of the time. So definitely good to land your layups flat is a good thing to think about in this wind, and even put them on the right side of the basket.
Well, and I'll ask you, any thought whatsoever of running at that, or you're committed to the layup from that drop zone?
Yeah, with that wind, there's no chance I'm running that. Even if it's dead calm, it's an elevated basket through kind of a gap, so it's a tough putt regardless. But yeah, definitely in those windy conditions, I'm never running that one.
And I will flip the script again. AB's got to be thinking, hey, you're going to be bogeying, and he's got a chance now to get 2 back on you.
Yep, definitely could have been an opportunity to have another 2-stroke swing, like you said. But now he's, 26 feet, putting for par. Yeah, that's a very solid putt. Nice and confident, smooth in the center. So good to see he's found his rhythm there.
You're not trying to work that hard, though, for this particular par, right?
That's for sure.
If you're parring, you're thinking, yeah, let's make it easy and stress-free. You don't have to work for a par.
Exactly. On these elevated baskets, too, one of the thoughts I always have is I have a very, low to high putt, like you said. So anytime I can be within 10 feet and do my little, spin tap-in, it takes a lot of pressure off and a lot of the possibilities of spit-outs from a lot of these elevated baskets. So I'm definitely trying to lay up to in that range somewhere where I don't have to do my full putt and I can just kind of tap in nice and smooth.
As we head over to the first par 4 that we'll see on the day, 783 feet. OB both left, right, and even deep of the basket. This one kind of parallels hole number 14's fairway on the left side.
Yeah, this is one of the trickier 4s on the course, I'd say. It's plenty long, and yeah, the fairway gets narrower all the way down to the green. So you'd like to bite off at least half of it here, somewhere near that. It plays 780 feet, so if you can get 400 off the tee, so you have less than that into the pin, that's pretty ideal. And AB said to me, he's like, I've never thrown this nuke before, so we'll see how it flies. First throw ever.
And is it in the bag and then being thrown here because of the wind? Is he specifically changing something up, or why would he be throwing a disc kind of for the first time?
So he's got a whole stack of these nukes, and they all fly the same. So I don't blame him one bit for doing it. But I think the main reason is that his last one just got a little flippy on him, so he's just throwing a new one in the bag.
This feels like the line you would dream up, right? Is that exactly what you were trying to do?
Yep, I've got a pretty stable nuke there, and I'm just hitting it hard with a touch of hyzer, letting it flip up to flat, but never really turn, and then, yeah, fade back to the center. And I was surprised by this shot. This is so aggressive. He's probably over 500 feet from the pin, and he throws this almost perfectly. The line looked great, and then right at the end, it takes a tiny little anti-skip out of bounds.
Like you said, going after it. See your mom, Michelle, right there out on the bag again. How much does she love caddying?
Oh, she enjoys it so much. It's cool having her on the bag just because of how much fun she has out there.
I also got a chance to, as you almost skip it in. Wow, that would have been a heck of an eagle.
Yeah, I couldn't see it from where I was, so I was curious to see how close it was from the camera.
It actually had the height. Speaking of family, I saw your grandma out there as well, taking in the action today, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to have the whole family here. That's one of the reasons I really like playing this tournament. Is it's not a very far drive from Colorado, and I've got aunt and uncle who live here in Arizona. So the whole thing is really nice. And they brought down my dog, my chocolate lab. So
nice.
Got to see him this weekend.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have to hook you up with the Distinguished Doodle and get you some great products from those guys right here out of Arizona. You don't have to have a doodle in order to get some of those great shampoos and other products that they have. So just want to put that out there for everyone. We'll get you some, though.
I appreciate it.
Here's AB. Wow, so he actually still has a chance to save par here even after going out of bounds.
Yeah, like I said, it almost hooked up for one of the best shots I've ever seen, and it just barely leaked OB. But another tricky putt, I don't know, from 40 feet on an elevated basket. Those are always a little funky. And then Isaac and Gannon both threw great approaches, put themselves around 26 feet, something like that. And then, yeah, good putt there in the wind from Isaac. Yeah, and I don't blame him stepping off here. The wind was a little gusty, going back and forth. Definitely taking probably too much time, but it's one of those situations where if we're keeping up with the card in front of us and, you know, it's only once or twice during the round, everyone on the card is definitely going to, like, be okay with someone doing that. It's a tough situation, and we'd all like a little bit of, you know, leeway if we're in that tough spot too.
Yeah, and without getting too far into that topic, I know we talked about it quite a bit yesterday. I'd love the idea of seeing like 2 official extensions per round. You know, you have your 30 seconds or whatever ultimately the timer is. If we continue to keep 30 seconds, I'd love to see players be able to say, hey, I'm calling for an extension 2 or 3 or whatever the number is, some limited amount of times. I would love to see something like that enacted.
Right, I really like that idea. And if you think about it, you kind of have one of those currently, you know. You get
sure,
one
kind
warning.
of a warning. Yeah, exactly.
But nobody ever calls it, so it doesn't. It's such a weird situation with that.
And you know, I know just to be clear, no one was personally attacking Cupcake yesterday. I hope Cupcake and everybody else knows that. But sometimes when you gain a reputation for being slow, that doesn't help your case, so to speak. And I feel like Gannon, obviously, he's been warned in the past and even had penalties as that one gets high into the chains, but gravity's on your side.
Yeah, that's a tough putt for me. I'm definitely a little on the hyzer side with my putt, so that crosswind lifts it just a little bit, and I'm happy it just pushed into the chains instead of pushing back out.
Speaking of pushing things out, 6-sided disc always is giving you guys tons of content. They have all 6 sides, which is one of their podcasts where they explore the world of disc golf from every angle. They've got interviews with the likes of Stokely, AGL owner, Josh Jones, and recently they did an interview with me. You probably heard enough of me talking, but they just released a podcast where I caught up with them, with Greg over there at all 6 sides, and please check out their podcast on any of the podcast apps. So man, is this just straight headwind at this point, or no?
This was maybe the hardest conditions I've ever played this hole in. All 4 of us were standing there. None of us wanted to throw. We had no idea what was going to happen. And then Gannon throws a beautiful shot there. Actually keeps it in the fairway, which is just so hard to do. The 2 things here is you don't want to flip it over, go OB right. But as soon as it starts hyzering, since it is a right to left wind, it's just going to push so far left. But one of the changes they made to this hole was they added that OB starting up the sidewalk down near the green, and they made it an island green approach. And I think it's a really good change for this hole because it played a little easy as is, and now it adds a little bit of, I don't know,
more
thought.
Strategy. Yeah, certainly.
And I think that it's a really good way of taking a less interesting hole and adding a lot of risk factor into it, a lot of like risk reward, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, you go back for the last 10 or so years and watching people play this hole, almost every year I would tell you this statistically was the easiest hole on the course. It was a par 4, you know, shy of 700 feet, but it was a really routine par 4. They added a few Mandos, but ultimately I think adding this island green certainly changes things up.
So I'm a little pinched here on the left, but I got a little fortunate to have kind of a gap.
And you decide to go for it.
And I just rip it, catch the backside of the green, and I am stoked with that.
Yeah, on the green in 2. Should be a par at worst.
And I got to be honest with you, Terry, the reason I'm going for that shot is because I think it's a really tough layup with the way this wind is playing to begin with. And I don't want to mess that up. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it from here.
Okay.
And I think I've got a good chance of making it. And if I don't, I'll just take my medicine.
No, I love that philosophy of like, well, if the layup's not anything guaranteed anyway, in this case, let's just go for it. That makes sense. Here's Robinson, like you just said, really pinched off on the left side. And this looks like just too much wind pushing it, and it goes over the green and out of bounds.
They're just lifting and carrying like crazy with that. And, yeah, this is the layup from AB, and I'm so happy I don't have to throw this approach shot.
Just a standstill.
Almost throws it in, actually. And does land on the island, which is good because it just, you can't, like, it's hard to skip back over the wall. But this is more the play you're looking for. Nice little jump putt, land it within 10 feet because, I don't know, AB and I both have 30-foot putts here, and that is not a gimme on these elevated baskets.
Elevated with wind. And, yeah, after having such relatively calm conditions over rounds 1 and 2, this has to feel quite different. Any idea what's in the final round forecast?
I was thinking it's going to be a little nicer than this, but maybe a little cooler is kind of what I heard. Don't know for sure. Definitely should be looking at that, though.
Oh, no. What?
Oh, my goodness.
Off the OB wall on the top of the wall, and then it somehow spins back in or gets pushed back in with the wind.
Yeah, that was a wild one. Gannon and I were both standing there like, oh, I've never seen that before.
Oh, no, the struggles here on 7.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to putt from. And right here, I'm just grateful that I have this tailwind putt. It's amazing how much difference it makes being on the right side of the wind for your putting. And especially on holes where you can decide that kind of thing, it's really worth putting a little bit of thought and effort into.
Looking to take advantage, especially with AB struggling, and what a great birdie.
Yeah, and that strokes on the whole card. I mean, both Isaac and Gannon threw OB as well. AB is going to take, I think he's lining up for his double.
For a double,
yeah.
So you're looking at a 3-stroke swing on this particular hole. And Robinson off the top.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of confidence in my putting stroke as of late, and today did not really help with that. It was hard to have any confidence in anything all day long. So definitely going to have to get out early tomorrow, grind some putts out in some nicer conditions just to get a little bit of confidence back. It's so hard to know where it's going when you have these gusty, swirly winds. So just trying to put the drives close.
I often wonder, after seeing so many elevated baskets, I wonder if one year they just put them all at regular height, if that actually would screw up anyone, because they're so used to playing them at elevated baskets over the last few years. But one of my favorites, hole number 8, downhill, 360 feet, OB everywhere. Usually it's somewhat straightforward in terms of a plan of attack, but most of that gets thrown out the window on a windy day like today, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm usually going putter straight at it, and the two options today were Spikeiser backhand over everything, or throw a forehand straight at the basket and let it just drop straight down. And super happy with that. As soon as I released it, I was like, oh man, I threw that. It's going to go way too far right. And then I was like, oh wait.
Yeah, the wind corrected for you.
Exactly.
Gannon may or may not have adjusted based on what he just saw by you. And his kind of did the same thing. And not only when it lands, it actually curls back toward the pin. Not a normal reaction.
Definitely. You're almost trying to land the disc right of the basket and then bank on it, moving back towards the basket with the wind.
Oh, and that tree might have saved a stroke. That looks like it was heading definitely into the water.
It wasn't actually water. I think it was going to go long OB left.
Okay.
It had just gotten on hyzer, and I think it was going to take a big skip left. So either way, I think it was a very fortunate tree hit. And speaking of fortunate tree hits, AB throws right through the middle of it and about 25 feet there. And I think all 4 of us are just happy we're at bounds from that tee pad.
Robinson from about 45 doesn't draw any metal. AB with a chance to bounce back after the double, and that's on the pole the whole way. So, you know, you may wonder, is the confidence shook a little? How's he feeling about his putt after just a couple of different 3 putts, and then he steps up to that, and it's just right into the heart of the chains.
Yeah, he's one of those players that I don't see as much tilt from him, and I see more of like frustration, and it kind of like fuels his, like, he's like, oh man, I've been missing putts, and then he's like, guess I'm just gonna cash this one. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
He like uses it a little bit to his advantage. So when he gets a little bit angry, it's scary to see what AB can do.
Wow, so incredible. We do see 3 birdies ultimately here on hole 8 as we head into the final hole of the front 9. And I don't know. Aesthetically, this hole's great. I would hate to have to throw this hole, especially today.
Yeah, to me, this is a layup all day. I can't imagine anyone going for it. And I even made that joke to Cupcake right before he teed off. I was like, hey, are you going for this? He's like, oh, yeah. It's pretty easy. I'll just get on Anheuser over the trees. Should be fine. And then I don't know if you're there and saw it, but he doinked one off the cage.
Right off the top of the basket. That's insane.
It was the best shot I've ever seen on this hole in the worst conditions I've ever played this hole in. And I'm just throwing nice, easy, routine hyzer, getting out to the right, and hopefully just saving a nice, easy par.
Trying to keep it stress-free. Yeah, Parker Welk also. Didn't he splash out during Shelly Sharpe on this particular hole, or went right off the top?
Did. I had 2 shots where I'm just baffled on how they can get that far, that pure, right on top of the basket. I've never been anywhere near that.
Here's AB.
And unfortunately, it was more of a headwind than a right to left. Sometimes when you do have that pushing right to left wind, you can get to the pin with the hyzer. But today it was just like, throw something stable, try to get out in the fairway, and yeah, chip up for a 3. I was talking to someone, and every year when in practice, I'll get to this hole and I'll be like, you know what? Maybe I'm good enough this year to like go for the green. So I'll throw a shot or 2, trying to go for it, and I'll donate a couple of discs to the center of the lake and be like, okay,
all right,
guess I'm back to laying up.
And that one just trickles in barely for Robinson.
This is not a fun upshot.
No, it doesn't appear to be. Dealing with the wind, and then the water can come into play less than 15 or 20 feet deep of the pin, and just so much more wind than normal here today too. You're in a good position though. You got plenty of space out to the right.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting the right speed on it. You don't want it to lift up and then flare into the water as well, which I think can happen with too much speed.
Exactly, and this is the ideal play. Nice easy jump putt up there, keep it low out of the wind. But I was too scared to throw that. I stuck with my Zone OS. And
oh no, off the top. Just every single time we've seen a top basket or anywhere high, it seems to just continue to carry with the wind and everything else today. Robinson with the comebacker. And yeah, it's just rough to see because it's so uncharacteristic of Isaac.
Yeah, for sure. He's just not having a good time, and none of us are enjoying playing in like these windy conditions. So I feel it's hard to watch, but some days are just like that.
It be like that, as they say.
Just to throw this out there real quick. Oh wait, we're about to head to the back now.
We're heading to the back, so if you've got a big thought, hold on to it. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I appreciate you guys. Leave a comment. Tell us who you think is going to take it down. Put that in the comments. That'll make you eligible for the giveaway, and we can take a look at the scores as we've got 9 holes left to play. But right now, Goose is out in front. A little bit of a lead and some cushion over Buhr and Barela, and Jake Brown. His even isn't treating him so bad at the moment. Thanks for joining us, Goose. We'll see you guys in the back 9.